Welcome, everyone. We're introducing you all to 15.5's newest product, Kona by 15.5, as we discuss how to drive manager impact with real-time support. For the session today, we're going to first talk a little bit about the current state of manager effectiveness. We're then going to dive deeper into Kona, how it works. Sid is going to do a bit of a product walkthrough as well, so you can see it live in action throughout the 15.5 platform and in the flow of work. And then we're also going to discuss some of the common concerns and questions that you all may have on the Kona experience. From there, we have some customer testimonials to discuss with you all. We also have a bit of some context on the overall 15.5 manager product suite. And then we'll close with hopefully a bit of time for Q&A. But if you all have any questions throughout the session, feel free to throw them in the chat, and we will make sure to cover them within the session if we can, or create space at the end. We want this to be a collaborative conversation. Without further ado, I want to do some quick introductions. I'm Josh Langford, product manager here at 15.5. I've been with 15.5 just at 6 years. I joined 15.5 June of 2019, which feels like a long time ago, but it's been a really cool journey over the years. I've spent most of my time in the manager's space, from early manager development products like coaching and content to here more recently getting to work with Sid and the team that came over to 15.5 from the Kona acquisition earlier this year. This is such an exciting space to be in, and such great impact that we're already having with this new product. And to introduce Sid really quick, Sid is our general manager of expansion and manager products here at 15.5. He was a previous co-founder and CEO at Kona. I've got the opportunity to work directly with Sid, and I'm so impressed by him and his strategy and vision for the future of 15.5 and Kona. And he does a great job as a manager as well, and definitely practices what he preaches. Yeah, Sid, I'll pass it over to you to do a little bit more of an intro, and we can jump into the content.
Thanks, Josh. That's very kind. Hey, everyone. Nice to meet you all. I'm Sid. I was the CEO of Kona before we got acquired by 15.5, and now I'm leading the manager products team as general manager of 15.5. We launched a new manager products suite, and a big part of that is Kona, of course, that we're going to be sharing more about today. We launched that last week, and it's been honestly a whirlwind getting it built, getting it launched, and seeing the awesome reaction that everyone had at the launch event and with early adopter customers. Excited to share more about what we're hearing, what we're seeing, as well as just having been in the space for 6, 7 years now, building products for managers and helping managers develop and grow in the flow of work and using AI and technology to support managers. It's a space that I'm personally super passionate about, dedicated my career so far to. So really excited to see and share more about some of the things we've learned and why we're building Kona and why we think it's the right solution for you all to develop. You all have probably seen some version of a report like this, but Gartner's most recent HR leaders list of top priorities in 2025, manager development has now become really obviously the standout number one priority for HR leaders. I think during maybe better macroeconomic environments when a mid-market and growth stage companies were booming and capital was flush, it was maybe recruiting and every company was in hyper growth. But now it's do more with less. Efficiency is the name of the game. And so effective managers is now very obviously seen as, for a CFO or an exec or a board of a company, manager development is becoming more and more the number one thing that they want the HR team to focus on, and what the most strategic, the HR teams with the biggest impact on the business are prioritizing, because it's quite simple. You have an effective manager that's going to improve the performance, engagement, and retention of their entire team. And if a manager has on average anything between 4 to 10 direct reports, that can really meaningfully influence the trajectory of a company if you have effective managers. So I don't think I need to convince anyone of this. I hope the reason you all are here is because we share this belief, but just know that this is something that every HR team is now focusing on as a top priority. So having said that, there is something that's changing in this new world of TikTok and social media and low attention spans, right? We used to have traditional manager development programs. We used to get people in a room for a 1 to 3 day workshop. You design a custom manager training 101 that every manager at our company needs to go through. And we're going to spend $100,000, depending on such company, on an event that every single manager is going to come to. They're going to love it. They're going to come, engage in person. No work's going to get done for those 2 to 5 days. And then they're going to go back and forget everything that they learned. And for 30 years, that's just was the norm and how we expected manager training, manager development to happen. We had one big change with the arrival of on-demand content where you follow up with flashcards or bite-sized content for managers. But let's be real, who's gonna spend 3 hours then watching a manager training course when they've got stuff to get done? And so something about the old way isn't working. The reason why that doesn't work anymore is managers today are just simply too busy. They're being asked to do individual contributor work, strategic work, support their teams with the added stress of remote work, an uncertain macroeconomic environment. There's so many things that the managers are being asked to do. They are by far, especially middle managers, the most overwhelmed group. Consistently, we see this in our 15.5 engagement data. Middle managers are by far the most busy people in an organization, and they are the most time poor, and therefore they don't have time for training that isn't immediately applicable. They need help with specific things in the moment, in the flow of work, to effectively support managers. There's three pieces of this. One, of course, I touched on the point, managers are just too busy for generalized training. They need something in workflow at the moment that they need it. Every manager has a different problem. Some managers are new and they need help with setting expectations. Some managers have a couple employees that are struggling with their performances. They need help with tough conversations. Some managers have a ton of high performers on their team and they need help with career conversations. If a manager needs help with career conversations, but you're putting them in a workshop or a course that doesn't have to do with that, they're just not going to be able to retain or apply that information and grow and be the effective managers that their team needs them to be. And so you need every manager's development and support to be personalized to their needs and the journey that they're on. And the final thing is the application piece is how do you actually take all of the things that they're learning and make it actionable for them in their workflow? And so that's the other piece of how do you take Radical Candor, or a book that I'm reading, and help them actually give radically candid feedback. That's the part most manager programs fail with. So we see the poll up here. Would love to know, what are the things that you're struggling with respect to manager development? What are the challenges you're facing?
We got a lot of activity in the poll. Themes emerging. Front runners planning around limited time and budget, almost 60%. Then driving manager participation or engagement.
By far the number one thing we hear is like, our managers are just too busy to attend stuff that we want, but we need them to improve in a specific way. How do we do it? With a small team on a small budget. That brings us to the one thing I want everyone to take away from this. The old one-size-fits-all approach does not work anymore. It will miss the mark because we don't have enough budget. Make a program that will work for everyone. And two, managers are just too busy. They're not going to have the time or the mental bandwidth to attend, watch content, and apply. It needs to feel like my manager training and development journey as a manager is really for me and is focused on me, understands me, and is actually focused on the things that I need in order to be effective and deliver business outcomes with my team. And that's why we built Kona and joined forces with 15.5. AI creates the opportunity to scale and personalize effective managers, create a personalized, in the flow of work, in the moment support system that actually helps managers do the most effective behavior in the best way, in the way that they actually need it, without taking time away from their schedule to take them into another manager training workshop. And it's the way that it works is really simple. Kona is a coach that will join your one-on-ones in Zoom, Google Meet. He'll take notes for you and send those notes to you in Slack and email. And so it saves you time so you can actually focus on the meeting. And then it will coach you on how you did in that meeting as a manager. And that's, of course, completely private to you. So it's literally someone like we've had a lot of HR teams tell us we wish we could send VPs or directors or ourselves as an HR team join the one-on-ones of managers and give them tips on how they could grow. But of course, we don't have the bandwidth as a small team to join hundreds of one-on-ones that are happening a week. AI can do that in a personalized, privacy conscious manner that actually helps managers, that's focused on helping managers grow and not penalizing them or big brothering them in any way. The way that this works is it's powered by data in 15.5, identify what managers are struggling with, assign coaching through AI and content, of course, that we have it in coaching that we have in 15.5. Next slide. And then Kona is going to coach managers on how effectively they're leading and give you privacy conscious aggregate insights. You'll be able to see across 200 one-on-ones that happen in a month. Are managers giving effective feedback in those one-on-ones? Are they having difficult conversations effectively? Are they having career conversations? And what's the quality of those without having to violate the privacy of any individual or dig into the content of any individual conversation? You can still find out, are managers doing the behaviors that we need them to do, and are they doing it effectively? The whole thing takes 2 minutes to set up and is built into 15.5, Slack, email, Google Meet, and Zoom. Managers literally don't have to use another tool. They use the tools that they're already using. They spend 2 minutes to link their calendar, and boom, Kona is just joining their meetings, taking their notes, putting them into 15.5, sending them into Slack, and then giving them coaching in Slack and email on how they can improve. We've found managers really love this. So I'm going to actually share my screen and show you a quick demo in our demo environment of how this works. Let me share my screen. I'm going to start actually from the perspective of you all as HR leaders. I'm Seth, an HR leader. I come to 15.5's HR outcomes dashboard, my command center for measuring and taking action on performance, engagement, and retention. 15.5's dashboard will show me which managers need help. So based on all of the data that is built into 15.5 as well as 15.5 integrates with, it looks like the 15.5 has identified that these 4 managers need additional support. So I can click in and see a summary of, okay, these are 4 high urgency managers that really need help. So Max Bergstrom, he's someone that needs help with feedback recognition, difficult conversations, because it looks like he is really struggling with giving and receiving feedback. So from his latest manager effectiveness survey, he's struggling with giving and receiving feedback and maybe also struggling with supporting career growth. And he has a couple of top performers and he's struggling with low engagement among female identifying team members. It's important that Max is able to help these people on his team actually improve and give them more effective feedback. Similarly, we have other leaders on the team. Victoria has top performers and needs support with driving career growth, and so needs to have better career conversations. So Victoria has been assigned or recommended to work on coaching and career conversations. So now looking at these managers that are the highest urgency, highest impact managers that need the most support in our organization, Seth can go in and just draft an action plan in one click that has recommended recipes that 15.5 has created that we know are going to yield results. So in this case, for Max, the manager that needs help with feedback recognition and difficult conversations, that's a combination of an AI coach and some micro learnings on hard conversations, recognition, and direct feedback. I can save this plan and actually launch this action plan, which is going to send off to Max the invite to set up Kona. So literally in 2 clicks, I'm able to come in, identify which managers are struggling, and then launch an action plan that's going to help them get better in a measurable way within 15.5. Now, let's see what Max gets as the manager. So when Max gets his action plan launched, he's going to get an invite from Kona that says, hey, your people team's giving you access to Kona. He literally just sees the Slack message, clicks set up, in 2 minutes links his calendar, selects the one-on-ones he wants Kona to join, and that's it. From onwards, Kona's just going to magically join his one-on-ones as a participant and just sit there and take notes for him. So Max has had a one-on-one with Layla where they discussed Q3 roadmap and prioritization. And after the one-on-one, Kona's come to Max and said, hey, I took your notes and your action items for you. Here's what happened. And I put them into 15.5. And great job trying to give feedback in this one-on-one. Here's a tip on how you could be better. Maybe be more specific. So Max, in this one-on-one, you shared feedback on Layla's recent roadmap work, but that feedback came across vague. You weren't clear enough on what more strategic thinking looks like. Kona knows that Max is focused on engaging top performers on his team, and therefore more specific actionable feedback will really help Layla in growing. And now here's what Kona thinks is a recommendation of what he could have said instead or what he could say next time. So specific wording on how exactly he could have delivered that feedback in a way that would have been more impactful. Max is receiving real-time, personalized, actionable feedback on how he could lead better and drive more performance and engagement amongst his team. And of course, this is all upside for Max, who doesn't have to take notes, because when he goes to 15.5, the notes are just there taken for him. So Kona's taken notes on what happened in the conversation, written down some suggested action items on how Max can follow up, and what things to follow up on in the next meeting. Before the next one-on-one, let me show you. Kona's going to send Max a Slack message that morning saying, hey, Max, you have a one-on-one coming up with Layla. Remember last time we talked about this? Let's see what we can do next time. So Max is going to go into 15.5 and it's going to remind him, hey, last week you got this tip about making feedback more specific. Maybe try saying this instead. So it's given him not only feedback after the meeting, but before the next one-on-one, it's given Max guidance on what exactly he could do to follow up on that feedback next time. Managers love that notes are automated. They can go in and clean them up, edit them, delete things that they don't think are relevant, clean up the action items, and it's just done for them. And of course, they get access to feedback that otherwise managers almost never get. Direct reports often don't give feedback. Managers, directors, and VPs don't have time to reflect and sit in on one-on-ones and give detailed feedback. But this is the feedback that managers need in order to improve and actually get more effective as leaders. Then the final piece of this, let me come back to Seth's view. Seth goes back to 15.5's HROD, manager effectiveness, and is able to see aggregate data on if this is actually improving. So after a month of using Kona, how is it going? Are managers actually doing the behaviors that we expected? And Seth can come here and see, actually, yes, it looks like constructive feedback is now happening very frequently. Feedback is grounded in specific behaviors or examples rather than generalizations. And so Seth is able to see that at an aggregate level, this behavior is effective. However, expectation setting is not happening frequently enough. It's only happening in less than 50% of meetings, and follow-up or clarification is often missing. And so although feedback is happening effectively, this is now helping Seth identify what the next thing that managers need to improve to drive effectiveness. Seth doesn't have to wait for the next engagement survey that might be in 6 months or 1 year in order to identify if managers are actually doing the behaviors they need to or not. Now, one thing to clarify, aggregate data here, the contents of any individual conversation stay completely private to the participants. Although Seth gets access to aggregate anonymized data, Seth, as the HR leader, will never see the details of any individual conversation or any single manager. And that's really critical, of course, to create that psychological safety and maintain the safe space of a one-on-one. So yeah, with this overall end-to-end flow, HR leaders are now able to actually deploy targeted coaching in the flow of work to managers and track if that's working. All of it being personalized, actionable in the flow of work and not taking managers away from their work. I'm sure a lot of you have questions. Let me share my screen again. This is AI. It can be new. It can be scary. And very often we get a set of typical questions from HR leaders trying to sell this to execs and get buy-in. The most common one is privacy and security concerns. How do I get our legal and security team bought into this, accepting that this thing is going to join one-on-ones for managers? That can be scary. Kona is, of course, built with privacy at the core, adheres to 15.5's privacy security standards. 15.5 has the SOC 2 compliance, and Kona fits that and is built within the 15.5 ecosystem. And so, of course, meets all of the security standards, encryption at rest, encryption in transit, etc., etc. 15.5 is only accessing the transcript of the meeting and not analyzing the audio or video, and usually legal teams find that very reassuring. And those transcripts are processed into notes, action items, and coaching tips, and then deleted from our servers. Managers and direct reports can at any time type in the chat in Zoom or Google Meet, Kona to pause note taking, and it's not taking notes at that time, or even Kona leave. And then Kona will just leave the meeting. So anyone at any time can just press a red button and pause or kick Kona out of the meeting if there's something sensitive being discussed that they don't want to have any record of. Notes, action items, and coaching tips are the only things that remain, not the transcript. These are editable by the users. The AI misunderstands something. The coaching tips are only ever visible to the manager. So it's not like the manager is being watched and coaching tips are being shared with someone else. It's truly personal to them and only visible to them to help them grow. Of course, there's more at trust.155.com about our privacy and security policies. And we encourage you to go there if your legal or security team has questions. We're also happy to meet with the team. I've myself met with many a security team and legal team to answer any questions that they have and ensure that they feel confident using AI. The other thing that we often hear is managers aren't using 15.5 one-on-ones enough. Will managers engage in this? Will they be okay with having a bot join their one-on-ones? How do we drive adoption with this? One of the things we've heard most frequently, and it's been the big unlock with Kona, is that managers themselves actually love it because it saves them time. It means they don't have to take notes in their one-on-ones. It means they don't have to follow up on the action items. It's doing that work for them. And they're getting private feedback that's truly meant to help them grow. We see managers telling us all the time and driving that organic adoption saying, hey, I wish my manager could get access to this, or can I get Kona for my peer or this other manager at the company who's really excited about it? And that, for a manager development program, is unheard of. They don't have to also be using the 15.5 one-on-ones module in order to use Kona. Kona's kind of going to manage their 15.5 one-on-ones instance for them. We've seen customers in our early adopter program using Kona to on-ramp managers onto using more 15.5 features because of the fact that it's taking care of things for them. It's delivering value without additional effort. They can start seeing the value of the 15.5 platform. It's 2 minutes to set up, and then it's all upside from there. They don't have to do anything beyond that initial 2-minute setup. Happy to provide comms and enablement. We have in our rollout plan, we have guidance on how to get managers excited about this and answer any of the common concerns that we hear. And we're seeing, at least in our early adopter program, more than 70% adoption on average within the first 2 weeks of launch because managers get excited about the fact that, hey, this thing will take my notes for me and then put them into 15.5 and give coaching. Brilliant. Now, the age-old, how do I make the case for this to finance and justify the price point? The biggest question is, what's the cost of not solving this problem? What happens if we don't have effective managers? What's the cost of status quo? If we lose a top performer, what's the cost to replace that person? The inverse is, what if we were able to retain just one high performer, the critical engineer on the team that was maybe considering leaving or would have considered leaving because they're not getting the support they need from their manager. And we were able to keep that person longer and they continue to bring value to the company. What's that worth to the business? And hopefully the value Kona is bringing is significantly higher. What are your alternatives? One of the other things that we see partners typically evaluate in terms of manager development is we as an HR team can spend more time coaching managers one-on-one, but that means we can't do other things. Is that realistic? We could try to hire a coach or a coaching firm. That again is super expensive, takes managers out of their workflow and requires them to invest time in coaching. We could use a Gemini, an Otter, a GPT to do this, but that's not going to be aware of the manager's context, their history, the relationship they have with their direct reports, all of the 15.5 performance, engagement, retention data that 15.5 uses to personalize the coaching in the example that I showed you. And at the end of the day, training is important. But after that, how do we get them to apply it? The 70-30 or 70-20-10 rule, if you want to spend 70% of your time and effort on application, that usually gets left unaddressed in a lot of training programs. How do we actually reinforce that behavior change at scale and hold managers accountable in order to be able to grow and implement the learnings that they have in a training program? And so that's typically where a lot of our partners find that just training or coaching alone isn't enough. You need in the flow of work support to help managers improve. So yeah, we want to help you avoid that trap of investing money in a training program that goes super well, that people love, and then doesn't get followed up on enough. I'm sure many of you have felt that pain of a great program that then didn't yield enough business impact. That's what this is really for.
Thank you, Sid. I'll share screen, and if you want to jump into the chat and the Q&A, we've got quite a bit of questions coming through. So I'm going to move through this next section pretty quickly, and then we'll open it up to Q&A for everyone. All right. So we've talked about this a little bit already. What does the manager enablement stack look like today? For those considering manager effectiveness in 2025, I imagine you're considering most of these buckets here. How do we create a foundation of understanding for best practices? How do we give managers one-to-one coaching to improve accountability? How do we provide them learning and on-demand content to go deep into skills on a self-paced basis? How do we personalize the experience and make sure that the content that we're providing managers and the coaching is super relevant directly within their flow of work? And also, how do we connect this to data? How do we understand what's going on, what's going well, what can be improved within our manager base so that we can make targeted decisions? What it costs to build it yourself. If you're doing this without a partner, you may be exploring a bit of a like DIY approach, building out training content. We have customers and HR leaders that I've met with over the years where they've spent tens of hours investing in building out this themselves, and it takes a lot to do that. Or they may be looking at hiring someone internally, maybe it's an HR business partner, senior leaders to coach managers on a consistent basis, to try to bring in that personalized element. Or maybe they're looking at building their own GPT or AI experience to bring this into a bit more of a personalized approach, all of which takes a lot of time and energy versus considering, can I buy a solution? And there's definitely a lot of solutions across the board for all these different buckets where you can find partners that do that live peer cohort training. Maybe they have an extensive on-demand content or human coaching. Some new companies are trying real-time application, but no one is doing it like 15.5 with our combined solution of on-demand content. We have live in-house coaches within 15.5 that are all certified ICF who provide that real-time coaching and then who are also influencing the AI coaching that we're providing from Kona. It's one thing to hear us, but another to hear directly from our customers. So we wanted to play a quick video from our conference last week where a few Kona customers spoke to the experience.
We positioned it as a growth opportunity for the managers and the company, and a way to get people even more involved in 15.5 and just getting further into the platform and using all of the opportunities that are in there. It was an easy sell from the standpoint of explaining to the managers, yes, Kona is there, they're sitting in, they're recording, that recording's gone as soon as you get the feedback. Nobody is going to go back and listen to it or watch it. I put myself into the beta test and played with it some. And as you'd imagine, in HR, I'm having some pretty confidential conversations, and none of that showed up in the feedback. It was interesting to see how it tweaked and moved it forward. So the strategic conversation happened, but it didn't get into the nitty gritty that it would break confidentiality. It was easy to get people into it, playing with it, understanding it, and seeing the feedback from managers. Kona didn't show up at my meeting today. My one-on-one notes didn't transfer to my 15.5. It was crazy to see how much they were relying on that side of things to help support them and then just complete that cycle of being involved in the platform at 15.5, engaged with Kona. That's how we got it going. Managers have found it incredibly useful. We even have some people, leaders saying, hey, I want to get this manager in. When can I get them on the program?
ROI is such a fun one for HR, L&D in general. I think sometimes I've become more hesitant to, get kind of stuck trying to build equations about time saved. I'm excited about getting to a place where we can better track that. So I'll speak a little bit from, especially those that are getting started with this. First is about, I have a hypothesis that this will be as effective, if not more effective, than multiple approaches. Managers will see it's working and effective, and I can do that within the same budget. A nice place to start with ROI is we've already allocated funds. Are we able to do cost replacement? From a cost and a time standpoint, I'm excited about is to be able to show that we can maybe serve more people with the ability to use different parts of this sort of suite of products. As we've piloted, and just want to give a shout out to the team for being open to feedback. And I think there's some pilots that they're just trying to prove they're right, and others where they're really trying to learn. And so being able to see that fast iteration reinforce what I think is the most important thing about considering these types of tools. They're only going to get better. Now is not a time, I think, to wait for perfection. Now is a time to experiment and to start to get comfortable using it, because this is the future, right, of where we're headed. And so making sure that I see this tied to manager effectiveness. We're not new to AI, but we're transforming how it's part of our internal work. And so I see this as yet another part of that equation where we're helping managers get comfortable using this tool in their capacity. I'm measuring ROI on different fronts, but it comes down to, does it work and do I see effectiveness? And this is probably the best shot I have of being able to connect the dots between the activities that they're doing and the outcomes they're measuring in the same tool. So make sure it works and keep it within the budget.
Awesome. So that was a couple of our early Kona customers speaking to their experience. The full 15.5 Manager product suite is a combined solution of on-demand microlearning content as well. We want to make sure that this content is also consumable within the flow of work, and the manager doesn't have to sit down and take hours of time uninterrupted to be able to complete those, as well as group coaching, one-on-one coaching, all targeted and focused on the outcomes that you're looking to drive. And then Kona, AI coaching in the flow of work that leverages that 15.5 data and provides that real-time support for managers. Sid, I'll pass it back to you to wrap us up.
Thanks, Josh. We wanted to leave a couple minutes to answer questions and talk about the future roadmap. I saw a number of questions. We do meetings in MS Teams or in person. Both are planned. MS Teams integration is coming before the end of the year. So Kona will join meetings that are in Outlook Calendar and MS Teams. The other question I saw that we hear all the time is we do meetings in person. There is a workaround being planned for this. Currently, Kona is built for remote meetings, and the primary use case is remote meetings, Zoom, Google Meet, Google Calendar. But we plan to add support for in-person meetings. Yeah, if you are interested in that, definitely stay tuned and sign up for a demo to learn more about that, and we can share a little bit more as well. Which brings us to our poll, which is, would you like to learn more about Kona? We're happy to schedule some time to do a demo, share more about how Kona might be able to help you, and answer any questions that you might have. The pricing, I saw a couple of questions about pricing. It's $29 per license, so per manager license per month. You don't have to assign licenses to every manager. If there are 100 managers, you can pick 10, 15, or 20 managers that you want to assign Kona licenses to. We actually recommend you select managers that really need help and would be open to real-time coaching. You only pay for the managers you have licenses for.
Thanks everyone for joining us. Were there any outstanding questions in the chat? So did it look like everything was covered?
It looks like it. I've scrolled through the chat, pricing.
Just to answer your question, we have it on the roadmap to expand Kona's functionality for in-person one-on-ones. Right now it's focused on remote and hybrid use. That's something that we're looking at soon. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. This has been a great session. We are super excited about Kona and the potential for 15.5 in this next chapter. Looking forward to sharing more with you all.